1,000 jump shots a day, every day. He would have the broom. Did I ever tell you about my dad's broom? He would have a broom up because my dad's whole thing was like, you need to mimic shooting over 7-footers. Like you need to arc shots. So I'm talking about like in a public park in Ridgewood, Queens, which is a very culturally diverse neighborhood. You had people from all walks of life.
Broomstick up.
He had a broomstick up, and on the broomstick written in tape was the word Leroy. He named the broom Leroy. Because he was like, let's be honest, it's going to be a 7-foot black guy, no? And then so we just call it a Lee. So I would shoot over Leroy, and that's what he said to me when I was in Winchell, like a dead serious conversation. He's like, what about all the times me, you, and Leroy had in the park? You disrespected us all. You know, like
Leroy's pissed too.
Dude, he made Leroy. I've said this too on a podcast too, but like my dad, like in Ridgewood, this was like what was called like a Ridgewood coffee. Like my dad and his friends would go into bodegas or coffee shops or whatever, and like, let me get a coffee Leroy. That was a coffee black with no milk. They would say, like, let me get a coffee Leroy. And then it would just be handed the coffee like that. And I just thought, like, I was like, oh, I didn't, you know, because growing up with the type of father I had.
Try that at Starbucks right now.
Can I get a coffee Leroy?
You get a Leroy? I'm like, what? It's totally black.
Yeah. A Leroy, no ice.
You know, so you thought that was how you order coffee?
Because my dad would just go, like, the thing is with
nobody in those days would be like, excuse me, sir, that is not the appropriate way to order coffee.
I tell this on stage, but it is genuinely dead 100% serious. When I was like, I started when I was about 24, 25, and I was in therapy, like psychotherapy, because I was, you know, probably the Winstrel fucked it up. I had a lot of anxiety and like would go over stuff. And my therapist would ask me to like, you know, ask me things about my childhood and all that. And I would tell these stories not thinking they were funny. And it was really my therapist was like,
yes,
you know, your father, those stories that you have about your family, like you should actually do stand-up, because he was like, it's very hard for me as a professional to not laugh in your face sometimes when like you tell me like what your family was doing to you. Like, you know, like, and I hadn't even had the thought of doing stand-up. He's like, I think you should try it. He was like, it'll be cathartic for you to get it out. And it actually, I don't have anxiety as much anymore, or depression as much. I mean, it's always a part of me, but it's nowhere near like it was, and I'm on no medications because of stand-up. Like me getting out a story about my father and talking about it helps me understand that like he actually loved me and he wasn't just like, and that he's just a maniac of a guy, but it's way more good than bad, way more pros than cons. My dad's just right intention, wrong move kind of guy.